All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. What's going on? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Thank you for joining me at 8 a.m. on Friday, January 16th. Hopefully, everybody's having a nice morning. However, whatever you're doing, commuting your way to work, already at work, getting ready for work. Maybe you're retired. I don't know what you're doing, but I appreciate you spending some time here on the show. So thank you very much for coming on the show. We got a busy, packed show today. As somebody who does a Monday through Friday show with a lot of that content built around Lakers basketball, and then, of course, we're hitting on NBA and some other things, mornings like this are a little different. Sometimes it kind of just depends on the result of how the squad is doing. And if the team is playing well, you might get some extra clicks. If the team is playing really bad, you might get some extra clicks. I got a feeling today is going to be a busy show and a packed show, primarily because the Lakers do not know how to play defense. They have absolutely no identity, and we're going to try to figure out what the solutions are here. So we'll spend a little time, obviously, going through a number of different topics around Lakers basketball, around the NBA. So I appreciate you guys being here. Please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you have yet to subscribe. Consider being a member. If you'd like to join, that's $3 a month. But nonetheless, just having you here is greatly appreciated. So cheers to everybody this morning. Today's cup of coffee just hits. I don't know what you want me to tell you. You know what I mean? Just hit. Second cup of coffee here. Let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show today. And then as certainly as the show progresses, I'll spend a lot of time looking at everybody's comments, get their thoughts on what they're thinking. So we'll hit on a number of different topics today. Here's what we got going on. Obviously, the Hornets handled the Lakers yesterday. I'll talk a little bit about the game. We can get into the Lakers' lack of defense, no bench production, a couple of things that were said post-game that I thought were interesting. I thought Redick kind of found a new excuse. If I'm being honest with everybody, I've been a little vocal about, I feel like the team is kind of becoming a team of excuses. And there's a new excuse coming from yesterday's game. We'll get a little bit into that. I do want to also spend some time. I was talking about this in the post-game show yesterday, and it kind of hit me when I started talking about it. I'm like, well, this is a conversation. I got no idea what the Lakers team, what their identity is. And to be honest with you, I'm waiting for new ownership to kind of reveal what the identity is of the Los Angeles Lakers. Because as of right now, again, the world's not going to end. They just kind of got here. I don't really think there's an identity to the Lakers. I think if I said, hey, what is the identity of, I can name off certain franchises out there, we'll have an idea of what their identity is. I don't think the Lakers have one. And I don't think it's just the team. I just think the franchise in general does not have an identity right now. So that's obviously going to have to be something that the front office and new ownership figures out what that identity is. Luka complaining, I think that's definitely a topic. Marcus Smart had a quote yesterday that I think was a direct shot at Luka. Not a negative one, not a, there's an internal conflict, none of that stuff. I don't think anything dramatic, but I think Marcus Smart was being honest about Luka's complaining. If you're going to complain, that's fine. But if you're not going to get back on defense, you're hurting the whole squad. So I'll read that quote, and maybe he could be talking about other people, but I don't see how that's possible. I think it's got to be Luka that he's referring to. I think there's Kevin O'Connor, who covers the NBA, I want to say for Yahoo Sports. I know he was doing his YouTube show. I got a clip I'm going to play for everybody of what he thought the game plan for the Lakers was. And to be honest with you, I kind of liked it as far as what the Lakers would do at the trade deadline, ways to acquire more first rounders to potentially go out there and make some additional moves. I think it made a lot of sense. And I'll play that clip for everybody. But if I'm being honest, kind of gave me a little optimism of what their game plan is. We know they only have one first rounder to work with, but they're trying to see, hey, can we use that first rounder and some other assets to try to get multiple first rounders later in the draft that could be more effective or could equal potentially a deal for another team that's looking for multiple first rounders. Bill Oram. I don't know if you guys remember Bill Oram, but he covered the Lakers for a number of years. I want to say he's originally from Oregon. Covers the Blazers for the Oregonian. And Lakers got the Blazers coming up tomorrow. If I'm right here, they've won 8 of their last 11 games to the Blazers. He's going to come on at 8:30. We'll talk a little bit about that game coming up tomorrow, Lakers and the Blazers. I got some questions for him on DeAndre Ayton when Ayton was a Blazer, and we could hit on a few things from that perspective with Bill. So Bill's going to join the show at, like I said, at 8:30. Rich Paul addressed the viral clip that went out about his trade plan for Austin Reaves. So I'll read a little bit of what Rich Paul had to say. Got some NBA news. We'll preview the weekend. NFL. Obviously, some big news yesterday goes down with the Dodgers and baseball. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we will call it. We'll call it a week. So solid week from everybody. I appreciate you guys hanging out all week. And we got a lot of stuff to close out the week on in regards to some topics today. So let me take a look at some of the comments here before we get started, and then we'll go from there. Lakers' identity is Rich Paul and LaFraud blames. People are pretty creative with LeBron's name. They're pretty creative. All right, let's go. Laker fans, Luka is not the answer to the promised land. I'm not saying trade the guy, but he can't be the leader of the team. Somebody asked me yesterday about the leader, and I'll get this. I'll get into this a little bit further down when I talk about the Luka complaining and, Marcus Smart's quote and everything else. I think I said yesterday when somebody said, who's the leader? I said Marcus Smart, I thought was the leader. Lakers' identity is getting to the line for potential three-point plays continuously. That's their bread and butter. Without calls, it hampers the team. Well, brother, they get to the line. Getting to the line isn't exactly the issue. They can get to the free throw line, but if that's your game plan, obviously you're not going to go very far. All right, let's get another one here. 2 of these here. Interesting. Clippers run Los Angeles. Clippers run LA. These are some of my favorite comments because I know even as that individual is typing it, they don't even believe that. That's okay. That's okay. We could allow that. That's fine. Have we hit rock bottom? If you want me to be completely honest, no, I don't think they've hit rock bottom because Austin Reaves isn't coming for a bit. And, we know how critical Reaves is to this team. That's number one. Number two, they've lost 4 of their last 5 games, 3 of their last 4 against teams below 500. They still got Portland and Toronto on back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, and then they go on an 8-game road trip. So have you hit rock bottom? I don't think they have because the schedule is actually going to get tougher, and you're going to be on the road here for a handful of games, and clearly that doesn't exactly play to the Lakers' strengths. Not that they can't win on the road, but it's going to be a tough road trip. All right, let's get the show started. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. And please, if you guys don't mind, subscribe to the channel. All right, so let me just kind of start off with this. Just real quick on the game last night, and this is where my focus is going to be for a quick second. So if you got any comments that want to talk about last night's game, feel free to do so. Man, how wild are some of these swings for the Lakers? They got handed it. They got handed to them by the Sacramento Kings couple of nights earlier in the week. What was that? Monday, Tuesday, whenever they played. And Sacramento didn't just beat them, but they had probably one of their best games that they had all year. They shot over 50. They shot 59% from the field and 65% from the three-point line. I don't remember ever doing a post-game show. And I'm being a little dramatic here, but I just don't remember another post-game show where I saw a squad shoot that well from the perimeter. I saw a squad dominate the Lakers the way the Sacramento Kings did offensively. Offensively, just Lakers had no answer. Everyone was hitting shots. And, you kind of hear the excuse after the game. Well, they were hitting threes. We weren't hitting threes. All right, fine. They go play the Atlanta Hawks. They dominate the Atlanta Hawks. Lakers drop 141 on Atlanta, and it was kind of switched here. Now Lakers are hitting every shot. Atlanta Hawks are struggling. Even though the Hawks made it sort of interesting, and what was it, a 30 point, 32-point game, something like that. They got it all the way down to 11 or 12, maybe 13. Then Lakers end up closing it out. So you got these just two wild swing games. And then yesterday against Charlotte, Lakers start the game up 9 against the Hornets, up 39-30 by the time the first quarter is done. And then just get absolutely blitzed for 3 quarters in a row. They give up 135 to the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte's percentages over 50% from the field, over 40% from the three-point line. You had 4 guys that combined for 100 points in LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple. Who else? Who am I missing here? I'm missing Miles Bridges. Guys, they had these youngsters toying with the Lakers. LaMelo Ball looked like he was in an all-star game, sizing up DeAndre Ayton like, hey, we're just having a good time. Step back threes. I mean, I don't even know if you call that a step back three. He took 7 steps to get back to the three-point line after he shook DeAndre Ayton. Just an embarrassing loss. And I haven't heard too many games where you could noticeably hear the crowd booing, and they were booing, and they should. That just kind of comes with the territory, right? Should the Lakers boo them back? Probably not, which was Giannis's game plan. But they're clearly booing the Lakers because they don't appreciate the effort. They don't appreciate the lack of defense. There's a lot of things that I think Laker fans didn't appreciate yesterday. Lakers got handled. But these swings of games, I mean, every single night, I got no idea what the Lakers are going to give. They might look flawless against Atlanta, or they might lose 4 of 5 and get absolutely blown out in some of those games. Spurs, they get blown out. Sacramento, they get blown out. Charlotte, they get blown out. Milwaukee was a close game. Could have gone either way. I'm trying to ask myself here, and I think this is a fair question, and you guys obviously can help answer this question. What is the Lakers' identity? What is their identity? Not just the team, the franchise. What is the franchise's identity? I think right now, and I think there's certain teams out there that I can tell you this is their identity. This is this franchise. And by the way, if you switch out players, their identity doesn't go away. This is who they are. They're blue collar. They're an offensive juggernaut. They're so a team that relies completely on their defense. At least there's some of these franchises out there. It's like, the identity of their front office, their head coach, the players that they have, and there's that trickle down effect. What the hell is the Lakers' identity? What is their identity? I mean, if I told you the Detroit Pistons, you would say, okay, hey, I get their identity. I understand it. They got a stud in Cade Cunningham, but really what they have is 8, 9 guys that play tough. Maybe that's the pedigree of their coach. Maybe that's the pedigree of Detroit in general. And I know what I'm going to get. It's like I can on paper, I could say this is what the Pistons' identity is. Or this is what the Spurs' identity is. Or this is what Denver's identity is. The Celtics' identity is. I don't know what the Lakers' identity is. And frankly, I mean it when I say this. For me, it starts with the front office and it works its way down. Not sure what the identity is. I think they will have an identity. I'd be very, very disappointed that by the time we're done with this upcoming offseason, that the Lakers don't have an identity. But as of right now, I have no idea what that identity is. I genuinely don't have any idea what that identity is. All right, a couple quotes yesterday after the game that I want to read to everybody. Okay? JJ Redick. These guys grew up watching LeBron James play. The Lakers are, like the Celtics, arguably the most storied franchise in all of sports. I think all the guys know we don't get a lot of off nights from other teams in terms of energy and being up. So that's why they lost? Okay. All right, so there's another creative way to explain why the Lakers lost. I can help JJ Redick why the Lakers lost. I'll help. They play zero defense. A lot of these guys are more worried about getting their offensive game going than they are on the defensive side. They bitch and complain after every play. A lot of the guys bitch and complain after every play. JJ's a little bit all over the place with some of his lineups, and I'm not telling you that the roster is perfect because it's not, and I'm not telling you that the Lakers don't have struggles with their injuries with Austin Reaves, but having Austin Reaves out is why you give up 135 to the Charlotte Hornets. Not having Austin Reaves is why the Sacramento Kings have probably one of their best games of the year. Not having Austin Reaves is why Luka commits dumb fouls against the Milwaukee Bucks and gets fouled out. I'm just using examples of these last kind of handful of games. So the newest excuse is Lakers are going to get the best shot of every team because they watched LeBron growing up and the Lakers franchise is very popular. Is that the newest excuse? Because we're adding to the list of excuses that are coming from JJ Redick. We are. I mean, if I'm just being honest with you here, it feels like we're getting a little more creative with some of these excuses. All right, let me read another quote from the postgame show yesterday. Here's a quote. Who do you think Marcus Smart is talking about? Instead of getting back, we're talking to the officials a lot. That definitely doesn't help. We got to be able to play on and move on to the next play. Who do you think Marcus Smart's talking about? You think Marcus Smart is talking about Jake LaRavia? You think Marcus Smart is talking about Gabe Vincent? I'm pretty sure we know who Marcus Smart's talking about. He's talking about Luka. I spent a lot of my postgame show yesterday talking about how Luka's complaining way too much. I spent a lot of the postgame show saying that. I mean, I sent a tweet during the game, and it's kind of funny to see some of the people's responses that I'll tell you exactly what I sent in the tweet. By the way, I don't use Twitter nearly as much as I used to. God bless Twitter, but not nearly as much as I used to. Here's what I said on Twitter. I said, Luka doesn't get a call, doesn't get back on defense, and gets a tech. Stop complaining and play. Everybody sees it. I mean, nobody's saying that Luka's not one of the best players in the NBA, but this is the area of Luka's game that is by far the most annoying part of his game. The guy gets a ton of foul calls, is hunting for fouls, gets to the free throw line, I believe leading the league in free throw attempts, yet he complains every single possession. That doesn't mean Luka's not great. That doesn't mean that he's not a top 5 player in the NBA. It doesn't mean that you can't build a championship type of roster around Luka. It doesn't mean any of that. But if we're going to pretend and not be critical about some of the areas of Luka's game that's wildly annoying and also hurts the team, it's this piece. And I'm glad Marcus Smart called him out. Maybe Marcus Smart is the leader of this team. Marcus Smart ain't perfect either, and Marcus Smart clearly is not the player that he was when he won Defensive Player of the Year. Marcus Smart's had his ups and downs with the Lakers. Clearly, no question about that. But Marcus Smart ain't wrong in this. Instead of getting back, we're talking to the officials a lot. That definitely doesn't help. We got to be able to play on and move on to the next play. That's Luka in a nutshell. So I just listen. I wanted to at least give a little bit of recap to last night's game. I wanted to spend a little bit of time with a couple of these quotes that came from it. I wanted to question what the Lakers, what their identity is, and really just the franchise right now. I don't know what the identity is. And I'll also say that I think that identity will change. And we got to probably just get to the offseason until things really start changing for the Lakers from a perspective that you could see, all right, I see some light at the end of the tunnel. Lakers aren't an awful team. They're not the worst team in the league, but they're just not a contender. And you can't take them seriously, even if they had Austin Reaves, because they just don't play any defense. And teams that don't play any defense just don't get very far in the postseason, and you just can't take them seriously. They got individual players. They got LeBron doing special things at age 41. They got a lot of players that are up and down. You got, a potential all-star in Austin Reaves. They got injured and won't make the all-star team because of that. The pieces clearly don't all fit. They're going to eventually have to build around Luka. But right now, when we're going through an 82-game grind, there's a lot of watching the Lakers and questioning, what the hell are they? And I don't say that from a positive perspective. I think that's just me being honest and being critical. And that's obviously what we have to do when we're talking about Lakers right now. So, a lot of things to kind of pay attention to over the course of this last, you can call it month or so. They've lost 4 of 5, but I know they're below 500 over the course of the last month or so. So, this is not something that's been going on for a few days or a week or something like that. There's a trend that's going on with the Lakers. One trend that they used to have that's changed. The trend they used to have is they get blown out against teams that are above 500. The new trend is they get blown out by teams that are below 500. So that's a new one here. We didn't see that one coming. Before, you could at least say, well, they're losing against teams that are above 500, which is not a good sign because those are all the teams you're going to face in the postseason. Now they're starting to lose against teams below 500. All right, shout out to Harris Resort SoCal. So Harris Resort, I'm going to get into all these comments here in just a second as well. And then I want to talk NBA trades or Lakers trade deadline. Harris Resort SoCal. So they are a brand new partner to the channel. And this is part of a kind of a bigger scope partnership that I have with iHeart, that I have with AM 570. But this is also kind of an important partnership for me because I've known the marketing director there for 10 years now. And definitely a long-term relationship, and excited because this is going to offer some new things to the channel that we really didn't have before. If you're looking for a resort, a staycation type of a place, it's within hour and a half, 2 hours, depends on where you are in Southern California. Go give Harris SoCal an opportunity. Go on the website. Go see what it looks like as far as booking goes. Stay there for a couple of days. Don't get on a plane and go try to travel somewhere else. Don't worry about getting to an airport and leaving your car. Just get in your car, take your family or your friends or your girlfriend or your partner or whatever the case is, and go give Harris a shot. Entertainment, phenomenal. I'm actually looking to potentially go to the Andrew Santino show, who's a comedian, really funny comedian, coming up, I think 2 weeks from today. If you're looking for fine dining, they got one of the best restaurants in all SoCal at Hell's Kitchen. That's Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. As the weather gets a little bit better, they got those swim up bars. They got a beautiful, beautiful area that's perfect for kids, adults, and everything else. So give Harris an opportunity. HarrisSoCal.com, located in North San Diego in the Palomar Mountains. It's absolutely beautiful. So HarrisSoCal.com to book your getaway. All right, let's take a look at a few of these comments here. And then I'm going to play a clip from Kevin O'Connor. We could do that after on what the Lakers' potential game plan could be. This team's identity is complaining to the refs, play no defense, and hope we get enough free throws. It's embarrassing. All right. Let's keep going here. All right. A lot of people talking about Austin Reaves. Okay. This team is what JJ coaches them to be. How about JJ Ham? Awful coaching. Way too reliant on LeBron and Luka. This of all the points is, if you're relying, just let me put this in perspective here. If what you're relying on is a 41-year-old, you're already screwed. And even if LeBron can still give you numbers, that ain't going to be sustainable. And the fact that it's almost unfair that you're asking LeBron to do that stuff at age 41, it is unfair to be asking for that. And then if you're also just reliant on a player that plays one side of the floor, that's also not a good game plan. And that's kind of where the Lakers are. Now, part of that also has to do with just the players are super inconsistent. There's virtually no bench for the Lakers. I think Jake LaRavia is getting some great opportunities right now, and I think he's making the best of some of his opportunities. So whether he stays in the starting lineup or comes off the bench, whatever the case is, Austin Reaves will eventually come back. So I think that will kind of fortify what that bench looks like. But they have such glaring issues and glaring holes, and this is one of them. You're relying on two players. Two players. You can't do that. We complained when JJ didn't play bench players in the playoffs in the last game. Why would any of these players get time in the playoffs? They suck. Well, I think, look, Is some of the complaining going to be unfair to JJ because players got to perform and things along those lines? Sure. But JJ also did something that had never been done in the history of the playoffs, which was not make a sub in the second half. That's why JJ got demolished in the playoffs, was because he did something that literally has never been done in the history of the playoffs. And the Lakers had a lack of size. They had Jackson Hayes sitting on the sideline. And they didn't use him. So there were a lot of reasons why JJ got, called out in the playoffs, and a lot of them are fair. Let me get to a couple supers here. Lakers identity for entertainment purposes only. I don't think that's going to last. I don't think that's going to last. Maybe I'm kind of, buying into something that's not realistic. But when I say I don't think that's going to last, obviously what I'm referring to is why and how I think new ownership will eventually change things. Like I said, I think it's going to take a second. I don't think they're going to make, abrupt. Maybe they do. Maybe in the summer they start making some abrupt changes. I think they're going to give Pelinka probably at least another year to point this, kind of drive the car in the right direction. I think they're going to give JJ Redick another full year. All right, let's try to put together a roster that complements both of your guys' vision, and then they'll go from there. But maybe for now it's entertainment purposes only, but it's also not very entertaining at the moment either. Haven't seen Pelinka at home games since the skid of games. He must be at Disneyland with his lightning pass. Fire Pelinka. He constructed this team. He probably gets a lightning pass. I could see that happening. Skips the line and gets right up there. I could see that. He's a powerful man. Pelinka's probably at these games. I mean, whether you see him or not, a lot of times these guys can be in the tunnel way, whatever the case is. But the guy, I don't think he's hiding. I think it's very apparent what's happening with the Lakers. MG, I appreciate the super. John, thank you very much for the super. I appreciate that as well. Let's get another one here. Love your show, but here's the issue. Please hear me. Most of the league knows you can run the Lakers, Luka AR next 4 years. No chip, must trade. Yeah, I'm curious what the overall game plan is going to be for the Lakers after this season. But I also think that they're not throwing the towel into this season. The funny thing is, I think if they went out and made a move and made some type of a trade and got kind of that 3-and-D player that they're looking for, got Austin Reaves back and was a little bit more healthy and kind of had that vision that they initially had, I don't think they're awful. But if the goal is to win and compete for an NBA championship, I don't think that piece is in the cards. So that's what I would tell you in regards to that. I think there's certain things that you could look at. You can ask, okay, what's the ceiling of the Los Angeles Lakers? Here's the ceiling for the Los Angeles Lakers. I think I did this maybe a little over a week ago. What would be kind of the perfect scenario for the Lakers through the regular season? The perfect scenario for the Lakers would be they get healthy, they make a trade, and they don't have to give up a ton of assets, or the assets that they give up is because they got a player that fits with Luka, that fits with AR, and is a long-term piece. They obviously finish the season solid as best as they can from a standings perspective. They get a matchup in the first round that is somewhat beneficial from some shape, way, or form. And then you just kind of take your chances in the playoffs. Then they'll get eliminated if it's not in the first round, in the second round. And then after that, they can start making kind of those little bit more of those seismic changes that they're looking for. And the LeBron contract is no longer $52 million with the Lakers. And whether LeBron decides to stay or to go or whatever the case is, that you have more opportunities to go out and try to get the type of players that you get. The AR piece of it, I still think there's probably a stronger chance that AR signs with the Lakers, and doesn't mean AR is going to retire a Laker. It just means that they'll keep that asset, try to build around those two players, and maybe in a year from now, if it's not working, then they'll consider some changes from there. Okay, let's get to a couple of more comments here, and then I'm going to hold off on kind of the latest from some of the trade rumors. So we'll do that here in just a few minutes. All right, let me get one more in here. Slee asked yesterday, what's JJ done to impress you as a coach? Game management, offensive and defensive philosophy, respect from the players. Please educate me. I mean, the guy did win 50 games last year and had you at a number 3 seed in the Western Conference. It's not like the Lakers are 8 or 10 games below 500. But watching the rest of this season is going to be very interesting because they're now being hit 9 games over 500. If I just told you that, hey, by January 16th, you'll be 9 games over 500. They're not the worst team in the NBA, but they're trending in an awful direction. And of course, you're going to look at your head coach and you're going to ask questions about, well, why isn't the defense doing more? How come enough players aren't getting back on defense, or they are complaining, or whatever the case is? How come you're giving up 135 to the Charlotte Hornets? So clearly for the Lake Show right now, and for JJ and for Palenka, it's been an awful look over the last month. I can't argue that. Okay, I did mention we got a guest for the show today. I want to welcome in our guest, somebody I haven't connected with in a while here, and welcoming back to the show. What's going on, Bill? How are you?
I'm good, Alan. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you joining the show. All right, how long did you cover the Lakers? How many years was it?
9.
9 years?
9 years, yeah. 2013, right after Kobe tore his Achilles, through the 22 season.
Okay. All right. You were in the grind there for 9 years. Well, you did a fantastic job when obviously you were here in LA, and of course doing a great job now for the Oregonian, covering the Blazers. Lakers got the Blazers coming up tomorrow. Before I throw a couple Blazer questions at you, just somebody that's not covering the Lakers on a night in, night out basis. I know the Lakers have played the Blazers a couple of times. You know how it's doom and gloom, how quick that could turn for the Lakers. And at the same time, if they're playing well, then everybody thinks they're going to win 3 championships in a row. From as an outsider now, how do you perceive the Lakers today, and maybe the roster, and obviously new ownership coming into play? Just I'd love to get your scope on the Lake Show.
Yeah, so one, I'm just the disclaimer that I don't follow this nearly as closely as I once did, right? Like, this used to be my entire life, and now it's sort of a little bit of an occasional distraction. But I just view the Lakers very much as a franchise in transition. Like, this is not a team that is going to have real clarity of direction until things get resolved with, frankly, with LeBron. I don't know that there is a LeBron and Luka championship run. I don't know that is a reality. I heard you talking about 24 and 15, 9 games above 500. They're 5th in the West. I think you kind of take that, given where you are kind of with these 2 timelines that you're sort of serving, even though you're kind of all in on the one Luka timeline. So I think that you're sort of in a stage where you're trying to sort of lay the foundation for a future with Luka, while also not disrespecting LeBron for however long he does this, at least in LA. So I just kind of take this season for the Lakers and everything that's happening sort of with a grain of salt. Like, I don't view this as a year where the Lakers need to be going, I disagree with Rich Paul. Do you trade Austin Reaves to go like all in this year? I'm not going all in this year because I'm not concerning myself with the LeBron timeline. The LeBron timeline is not what is driving me if I'm the Lakers. But I also think new ownership, what else is going to change? We've seen a lot change, obviously, with the younger buses being moved out. Is Rob Pelinka going to have a job once Mark Walter has the chance to come in and really assess things? The answer is maybe, but I think that there's a real case to be made for just kind of an overall organizational reset. But I've been saying that for 10 years, so I don't know. Like, maybe it continues to be not wishful thinking, but just delusional thinking by me.
Why it's funny you say, when you said the Rich Paul thing, I heard somebody say, I think it was Chandler Parsons. They do that Run It Back TV, part of FanDuel Network, and he said something about, he's like, I'm petty. He goes, if I was Austin Reeves' agent, I would say I would trade LeBron for Jaren Jackson, and just let's see what that dynamic looks like. But I thought it was funny when I heard that. I want to, because I think what you just said about new ownership eventually coming in, they're already in, but how long until they start putting their fingerprints on the franchise and organization? What was the kind of the feeling around the league when the Lakers did sell, and they sold specifically to this ownership group? Is there I'm curious to get your thoughts, because this wasn't just some random person This is somebody obviously having a tremendous amount of success with the Dodgers, and not to say that it's apples to apples, because it's not at all.
Mhm.
And frankly, I think the Dodgers might completely change the structure of baseball because of what they're doing over there.
Yeah.
But what was the feeling around the league, and maybe from your perspective, when you saw that transition happen? Transaction.
One, I felt a little naive just because I was surprised and I felt like I shouldn't have been, because I was still covering the Lakers when Mark Walter took had that deal go down in 2022, like where he took a larger minority stake and then had like right of first refusal to buy the majority of the team. Like
I think
clearly that's where it was.
from AEG, I think.
Yeah, it was very clear where this was
Mhm.
going. And the question was really just the timeline. And so, I think for me, I mean, it was really about the value. It was the fact that the Buss family was no longer going to have control of the Lakers. It was much more of that. And then just sort of the notion, and I'm not gonna be the first person to say this, and I feel it's reductive to talk about the Lakers as a mom and pop shop, but the perception that the Lakers, that there were limitations on what the Buss family could do just because they didn't have the incredible wealth of a Ballmer or of, frankly, a Mark Walter, that now the Lakers are going to be able to level up in the ways that, that maybe they had to kind of resist going crazy with their spending in the past. And so I think that that's where you're going to see that, because I mean, that's like to your point about the Dodgers. I mean, that's been where the Dodgers have completely separated themselves, is just a fire hose of spending on the roster. And obviously there's different limitations in the NBA, but I mean, the Clippers are far from a model franchise at the moment, but Steve Ballmer has certainly tried to, be a model owner again. Maybe there's some question about certain elements of what he's done there, but in terms of like, there's never been a shortage of investment in that franchise, and I think that that's kind of closer to what you're going to see from Mark Walter. He's not Steve Ballmer, nobody is, but just and I think that that's where kind of the recalibration of everything kind of comes in. There's no friends and family discount anymore. I mean, everything is like, Rob Pelinka was tabbed, one, because of a level of trust and because of a level of credibility, but also, that trust came from, the relationship with Kobe and the relationship Rob had built with the organization over decades. Now it's going to be much more about, I think, when any of those jobs are up for, debate, who is the best person we could possibly hire and how do we go get them? So it's like, oh, it's going to cost X amount to go get, I'll say Sam Presti, although I think at this point he would be foolish to ever leave Oklahoma City.
Sure.
But what would that actually cost? Okay, let's have a serious conversation about that, as opposed to, like that's obviously off the table, which I think is kind of where the Lakers have been in the past.
Yeah, and it may be, well, it's not Sam Presti, who's number two, and if not number two, then who's number three, and until you get the guy.
Where was Rob Pelinka on the list? Like what number was Rob Pelinka, from a league-wide standpoint, of the most appealing potential GM candidate in 20 what was that, 17?
Of course. And listen, if there's been I think you said like that family discount or whatever the case is, a lot of people, there is a question of, do you got just a lot of your friends working for the organization, or do you want to go get the absolute best in the business to work for your organization? And we'll see when that eventually comes to fruition. As we turn here, I got a couple questions, obviously, about the Portland Trail Blazers. Lakers play the Blazers tomorrow. Before I do, we've got our kind of first chance to see DeAndre Ayton on a night in, night out basis. And when he was on his way, and I'm curious, that facial expression there, what exactly that means. When he came to the Lakers, obviously came from the Blazers. Blazers buy him out. And I think there was some optimism from Laker fans. And to be honest with you, he's had good games. It's not that he hasn't. I think for him, it's been more about the inconsistencies. I've heard James Worthy talk a lot about how if you kind of really got to find a way to keep him engaged, because if you don't keep him engaged on offense and take care of him, maybe you're not going to get the energy that you're looking for on the other side of the ball. What was the Blazers' experience with DeAndre Ayton? And obviously this is a key year for him as he's trying to get paid and get another contract in the league.
It's so funny because I was not a fan of the DeAndre Ayton experience whatsoever. I do not enjoy watching him play basketball. I don't think he is a winning basketball player. Like, he doesn't play defense. He the ball sticks. Like, he doesn't play hard. even 75% of the time.
Mhm.
Like, so I just more or less got angry watching him play. And it's funny that, entire eras or entire seasons get reduced down to these like single moments that are totally unfair. Like, the Mike D'Antoni era, like, I mean, I don't know, like, at least for me and maybe a lot of Laker fans, the moment you remember is Chris Kaman laying down on the bench in Cleveland, which is
Sure.
like a 6-second blip. But like you can define like the entire Mike D'Antoni, at least post Achilles season to that moment. And for DeAndre Ayton in Portland, it was the game where he couldn't get out of his icy driveway and missed a game. And it's like in Portland, like we don't do ice and snow very well. Like we don't have snow plows. We are not like equipped for this. It is a hilly city, especially where players live. Like players have nice long driveways up in the hills. And so it was completely understandable to me that DeAndre Ayton was in a position where it's like, he couldn't get out of his driveway because that's something that would happen to a normal person too. And so something I thought was kind of charming and relatable was like actually kind of ended up being the symbol of his like entire tenure in Portland. Kind of like this, like, like what kind of like how committed are you if you're missing a game due to ice in your driveway? Like, come on. But like, no, it's like a real thing here. He was such a drain on the Blazers because and I mean, for the same reason that Anthony Simons was and that Jeremy Grant was, because the player is the contract, and that he's the highest paid player on the team on a team that is not building around him in any way whatsoever. Even maybe his first year here, there was a little bit of a question of like, could he be that guy? Like, was the problem Phoenix or was the problem DeAndre? And it pretty quickly became apparent that the problem was much more DeAndre than it was, a situational problem. But his first year here was Scoot Henderson's first year, Shaedon Sharp's second year. Last year you had Donovan Clingan here. And so it's like, clearly the organization is moving in a direction where DeAndre Ayton makes no sense at all. And he had years left on his deal. He was at $38 million or something like that. And it was such a dissonant sort of thing where it's like, why is this guy here? And like, so not only did he make me angry to watch him play basketball, every time I sat down and saw him, I was like, how are they going to get rid of him? And without attaching, picks and all that. And so the buyout, was I think necessary for Portland. And I was pleased to see them take that one kind of on the chin and just acknowledge that it wasn't working, set him free and give him an opportunity to go play somewhere else. And like, what I will also say about DeAndre Ayton is like, everybody really likes him. Like in the locker room, he was well liked. I don't know that he was respected. Like again, if you're a $38 million guy, you've played on a team that's gone to the finals, you're a former number one pick, you're older than a lot of the, the core, like you want to see some leadership qualities. Like you want him to come in and be like the guy who's kind of setting the tone. And that's not his style, right? Like he's kind of a fun loving, kind of goofy guy. And so I don't think Portland wasn't getting what you'd want to get out of a $38 million guy. Now, when he signed with the Lakers and everybody was like, oh, what a value. This is going to be great for the Lakers. I chuckled just because, and again, like I haven't been around the Luka Lakers at all, but I know what it's like around the LeBron Lakers. And like, I just really was curious to see how that personality fit was going to go, because when things are going well for DeAndre Ayton, like he's the most fun guy to be around. But if he's not getting his touches, if he's, if the team's not winning, he can kind of turn. And like, I mean, that's human nature too. I don't think he's like alone in that, but he still thinks that he is, at least in my time around him, one of the, and listen, talent wise, he is one of the most skilled centers in the NBA, but he still thinks he's, an all-star caliber player who, should be making max money. And, I mean, I know it's been a couple of years since at least I don't think, maybe he said this in LA. Has he called himself dominating since he's been in LA?
No, I don't think he has.
I mean, like when he showed up in Portland, it's like, what should we expect from you? He said, I'm dominating. And we, and so
Labeled
it's like,
himself right out the gate.
But when you said like that'd be like, that would be like me hopping on your show and saying, I am Oram the Great, and then only delivering mid takes. Like I should get called out for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's funny because I think what Lakers have experienced with him is a couple nights ago, I think he had 17 points and 18 rebounds.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
I think this is what you're referring to is the frustration is like, DeAndre, nobody needs you to have 17 and 18 a night, but can you not follow that up with 6 and 4?
Right.
And that's kind of been his, maybe not that drastic, that high of a high, that low of a low, but especially right now, too, they've had their fair share of injuries. Obviously, Austin Reaves has been out. Rui was out for a handful of games. And in some of these games where it's like, hey, they need you. I mean, maybe at other times they don't have to depend on you on a night in, night out basis. I think he continues to tell the Lakers, you can't depend on me on a night in, night out basis. What you said too about what Ayton was, it just, you knew he wasn't a part of the long-term plan in Portland. I think in LA, it was like, look, you're probably not part of the long-term plan unless you could maybe work yourself into a role like that. As we sit here today, I think it's very apparent that he's not the long-term solution for the Lakers at big.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And I think, I think that the model for, what you need at that position on a team that has LeBron, Luka, was set by the, when the Mavs went to the finals with their centers, long, athletic, defensive centers who don't need the ball. The Lakers when they had success with LeBron and AD. I mean that was the most fun that I've seen at like the most fun Lakers teams I covered. Over the slog that you mentioned, had JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard at center.
Sure,
guys who, and is there a version of DeAndre Ayton down the road that is closer to that? I mean, I don't know, because he's just never been that defensive player like that. Like, he's not the rim protector that JaVale and Dwight were. But like, there does seem to need to be kind of, for a player like DeAndre, who has been, considered one of the better players in the NBA in his career, has been paid like it. There does need to be kind of a come to Jesus moment where it's like, I need to stop worrying about my touches and start impacting the game in other ways. Like, how do I, become a gritty, guy who's going to impact winning instead of just getting numbers. And I don't know if that evolution exists for him. But I don't know. Look at Andre Drummond, like, different player, but like, Andre Drummond was an all-star.
Sure.
Game passed him by, and like, he figured out he became happy being a bench player,
backup,
year-to-year contract, happy to be in the NBA. And like, DeAndre Ayton is like kind of maybe like I'm not saying that's the best case scenario for him because he's a more skilled player, but like, he's got to kind of figure out where his place is in the NBA. And I don't think it is where he thinks it is, but it's hard because, I mean, teams are going to want to keep, at least for a couple more years, I think teams are going to want to keep seeing if they can figure out how to unlock the best of him. Because again, he does give you those 17 and 18 nights. He does, have 25-point nights where you're like, man, he's a machine in the post. And then he is a machine that is out of order for 3 weeks.
Bill, final one I got for you, and I appreciate your time as always.
Yeah.
Blazers have won 8 of 11. They got the Lakers coming up tomorrow. Lakers are coming off a couple of games here. Just wild swings. Sacramento had a game against the Lakers earlier in the week where they shot 59% from the field and 65% from three.
Yeah.
Lakers come back the following game. They dominate Atlanta. They put up 141. And then yesterday against Charlotte, Lakers play no defense. They give up 135. Blazers seem to be the type of team that will give Lakers issues. They're young. They run the ball up the floor. They're athletic. Can you just give us a little bit of an idea for Laker fans out there? How have the Blazers kind of figured things out over this handful of games and maybe what you expect in this matchup tomorrow?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be whether Denny Avdia plays, because he has been the proverbial straw that stirs the drink all year. And some of that has been out of, just the natural evolution of him as a player, but also out of necessity, given the injuries the Blazers have had. Scoot Henderson hasn't played yet this year. Drew Holiday missed 25 games. Blake Wesley, who I didn't know was going to be a factor in this season, was playing really, really well, was a really key piece of kind of their defensive rotation. He's missed a lot of time. And so they haven't had a point guard all year. And so Denny has had to be this 6'9" point forward. The only point guard they've had is Caleb Love, who's on a two-way coming off the bench. And so, Denny's numbers are insane, but the reason he's averaging 7 assists a game is that he has to initiate the offense, and it's all super speed, transition, drive, kick. Denny's getting to the line because it's drive, either get fouled, finish, or kick. And so he's missed the last 2 with a back injury. And so if he's out, I think the Blazers have a really, really hard time scoring the ball. They did beat Atlanta last night. But to do that, you need really, really good, efficient games from Shaedon Sharpe, from Jeremy Grant, who is back. Drew Holiday is back. It's his second or third game back from his injury. So he's back, but kind of still being like brought up to speed. I think that, the Blazers got absolutely blown out by Golden State the other night without Avdia. I mean, I think they're probably in for more games like that, until Denny comes back. He was upgraded from out to doubtful last night. So, I mean, that sort of progression is a little bit encouraging. So could he play by tomorrow? Like, sure, I guess. I don't know. I haven't heard one or the other, but I do think that, that's sort of the key. But I mean, this is a team that coming into the year was going to hang its hat on defense. And it was kind of incredible. You go back to opening night of the season, they lost to Minnesota, but had just an awesome defensive performance. Toumani Camara picking up Anthony Edwards, full court. And like, you could see it. You could see everything kind of coming together. They were healthy. They were playing fast, defensive. And then, 7 hours later, Chauncey Billups gets arrested by the FBI. And so then there's a little bit of a recalibration of like, okay, what's happening here? And then the injuries started. And so they have not been able to defend the way that they wanted to for all 48 minutes because the way they were built, but originally they were able to come at you in waves. Like Matisse Thybulle is probably on his way out of the NBA as a rotation player, but he was really useful for the Blazers because he could play 11 minutes off the bench and be part of that second wave of just relentless defense. Blake Wesley, same thing. Both those guys are hurt. Drew Holiday got hurt. So, I mean, it's the fact that the Blazers are they two games under right now?
2 games below. Under? Yeah, 2 games below.
I think they're in an awesome position considering where they what they've been through. I don't know what that means for their total ceiling. Like, I mean, I think that this, like their current construction, they're probably a play-in team kind of either way. But the fact that they've been able to hang around 500 despite everything they've been through is really impressive and a credit to those guys. But like without Avdia, like I don't think they can score enough to compete with most teams in the NBA on a nightly basis.
Well, they got a Lakers team that will defensively allow teams to score a lot. So we'll see if the Lakers are the proper mix for the Portland Trailblazers. Bill, it's good to catch up. Great to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate your perspective, and thanks for the time, all right?
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. That's Bill Oram right there. All right, great stuff. Good stuff from Bill. I haven't seen Bill in a while, and kind of great to see him. I didn't know he covered the Lakers for 9 years total, so that gives you a good idea how kind of intertwined he was with the Lake Show. Got a lot of comments that we got to read. I'm going to give everyone just a quick idea here. Yeah, we're not going till 9 today. Okay, we're not going till 9. I still got a lot to do here. All right, we got to work a little overtime today. I still want to go into the trade plan. Is it kind of revealed what their trade plan is? Some optimism towards that. We'll react to some of the Bill Oram stuff. I've been wanting to have somebody on that used to or covers the Blazers to kind of give Laker fans a little bit of perspective. I mean, I should have done this earlier in the season on the Ayton front, but nobody's going to really know Ayton behind the scenes better than somebody that was probably covering the Blazers. So it was great to get his perspective on that. So stick around. We're not going anywhere for a while. Okay. If you had something at 9 o'clock, you got to call and cancel or reschedule because we still got a lot of stuff to do. Speaking of which, I got to give a shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, best injury attorneys in the state of California. Serious injury, wrongful death case. Let them guide you. Let Brad Wallace guide you. Let his team guide you. wallacewins.com/Sliwa. That's the website. You go to that website, you get a free consultation. Somebody will reach out to you and let them just kind of point you in the right direction. Can you imagine being in a situation, and I hope nobody's ever in this situation, it's intimidating, it's daunting, you don't know where to start. Maybe you feel like the insurance company is just trying to settle and they're just trying to give you the least amount possible because that typically is their game plan. Well, go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Let the best in the business help you. Like I said, you can help anybody in the state of California. Somebody that I've known for over 6 years, was a partner with me when I was on radio, was a partner with me now here on YouTube. Overall somebody that I really, really appreciate and respect. And trust me, if you ever need him, he'll be able to help you as well. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa is the website, and you can go there and get a free consultation. All right, let's take a look at the comments. A lot of comments here. A lot of comments. Let's just say there's a lot of comments waiting for me here. I don't know if people are yelling at me. I don't know what's going on. Mark Walter may hire the best mental coach for Luka. All right, this was us talking a little bit earlier about obviously we were hitting a little bit on Luka complaining, refereeing, this and that. I think this is what this is referring to. So I appreciate the super here. Yeah, that's on Luka. I have zero sympathy for Luka when it comes to complaining and everything else. I said this in the post-game show yesterday, and it's just the reality. One of the last persons who should complain is Luka. He's trying to draw fouls. He gets a lot of foul calls. He gets to the free throw line. The dude is getting his fair share of fouls. Stop complaining. Stop complaining. That's my perspective. Some people might disagree. Some people might say, oh, you're being too harsh on Luka. No, I'm not. Nobody wants to see somebody, especially in sports, whine for 30 minutes of a 48-minute game. It's not a good product. And he's too good of a player to be complaining, and he gets a ton of calls. So that's on Luka to figure out. Let's get another one this year. What are we allowed to expect from LeBron, Slee? Is he out there just to sell tickets? This team played better without him. Teammates do not like him. You know what I thought, John, thank you for the super. You know what I liked about what Bill said, which I think is such a good point. He said that, I like getting perspectives of people that are maybe not entrenched into the Lakers as I may be, or maybe as you may be because you're watching every single Lakers game, or another journalist or a beat writer that only covers the Lakers. I like getting kind of that outside perspective. And when he said, I think the Lakers are juggling two timelines here. And the real timeline or the real game plan can't really start until LeBron is no longer with the Lakers or not taking up $52 million of their cap space. So you can complain as much as you want about LeBron, and you could say LeBron is not a good fit for the Lakers and they got to move on from him, but none of that's going to happen at the earliest until this season is done. And in the offseason, LeBron had an option in his contract, and he went and got paid, and he took advantage of that option. And all the Lakers could have done is not give him another option moving forward, and that's what they did. So if you think the Lakers are better without LeBron, I will tell you that LeBron's one of the few players on this team that's actually putting up numbers and putting up stats. And the worst part about that is at age 41, he's not supposed to be depended on, and they're still depending on him. Thank you for the super. Okay, let me see. Do I want to get let me get one more here. I agree, but Luka has been doing that his whole career. Seems like they're catching on, so now he should fake the body up, just go up instead of. Yeah, I've said this before, and there's certain players that are too good to where you hunt fouls as often as he hunts fouls. I think there's a lot of games where he almost takes himself out of a game because he's so interested in trying to draw a foul. It was the game against the Milwaukee Bucks where he actually fouled out in that game. He didn't shoot very well. He didn't have a good game. He struggled from the field. I think struggled a ton from his 2-point shots. And the reason why he struggled inside the 3-point line is because a lot of times he's just trying to draw a foul rather than I'm trying to get a bucket. All right, so I want to jump to what I think is a little bit of a perspective here on some rumors out there that I think might be a little bit encouraging. I want to play a clip here, and this is coming from, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is coming from Yahoo Sports, who has, their own NBA show. Kevin O'Connor, who's a part of that show. I want to play this clip of what his game plan is, what he thinks the game plan is for the Lakers, or at least what he's hearing, and why I think this is beneficial for the Lakers, and I think this could be good stuff. So let me grab this here real quick. I want to play it for everybody. So let's take kind of a listen together on this. Hopefully this is kind of queued up perfectly at the right time. Let me find this here real quick. All right, let me hit play here and hopefully you go. Again, this is on what he believes is kind of the thought process for the Lakers.
Rich Paul's not saying it, but I'm sure Rich Paul has that same exact information about where Reaves could go this offseason. And so they could get ahead of that possibly and get insane value for him now. And maybe that is where you get a Trey Murphy type, who, by the way, could go off for 30 any night too. It's not like Trey Murphy isn't a really high-level player. He's just in a different mold than Austin Reaves. So I do think Rich Paul has a point about the Austin Reaves.
Okay, that is not the exact clip that I wanted to play. So I think I either pulled the wrong clip here or maybe I'm using the wrong link. I will read to you what he said because I want to make sure that I'm finding the right clip here. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on playing the clip then. Let me read the quote here real quick. All right, I'll read the quote. Here's what he said, and this is why I think there's something that's encouraging here with what Kevin O'Connor said. His exact quote. He said, with the Lakers, the word on the street is that they're looking to package Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent together for a wing. Now, the really interesting thing with them is they've been shopping around their future 2032 first-round pick for multiple first-round draft picks, similar to what the Suns did a year ago when they traded their 2031 pick to the Jazz for 3 lesser firsts in 2025, 2027, and 2029. Why is that important? I'll tell you why it's important. Because we've already kind of heard this conversation. Let me use the Pelicans as an example. The Pelicans are saying, you want Herb Jones or you want Trey Murphy III? We want multiple first-round picks for one of those players. Well, the Lakers don't have that. They only have one pick that they could shop right now. So part of the point that Kevin O'Connor was making is what the Lakers are trying to do is they're trying to say, we got our 2032 first-round pick. Can we trade that to a team and get a couple first rounders, but further down that first round? So now they could potentially dangle 2 first rounders to go get a player like Herb Jones or some of those other guys. I'll keep reading another piece here that he mentioned. Seems like the Lakers are looking out for 2 or 3 future first rounds that are worse individually than their future first, which giving them more parts to put together. Gabe Vincent, Vanderbilt, or Kleba types of packages. So the Lakers are definitely looking for a wing. I think they definitely have interest in Herb Jones, probably too pricey. Trey Murphy, Jonathan Kuminga, maybe the Warriors, maybe as a third team, maybe we're going to see a situation where Kuminga gets sent to the Lakers for filler plus a pick, and then the Warriors get whatever trade package, I think, trying to get Michael Porter Jr. The main thing to take away from what Kevin O'Connor is saying is, sounds like the Lakers are trying to get multiple first rounders that they could deal by this year's trade deadline, specifically, like I said, so that maybe they can engage in talks with a team like the Pelicans who are trying to get a couple of first rounders. That's a creative path. And, one of the things that I've talked about and I've emphasized here in the past is I value these picks. I think these big picks are very important. But if you can get the right player that you think can be with Luka and you think can kind of fit with this Lakers roster, not just for this year. The Lakers are not playing for this year. They're playing for future years. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's a kind of a creative strategy there. All right, they got 1 first rounder, but the Pelicans want 2 first rounders for whatever player, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III. Cool. Lakers can accommodate that, but the only way they could accommodate that is if they make a move that they end up getting multiple first rounders for the first rounder that they have. It's a little bit confusing, but I hope you guys understand the concept. The idea that they mentioned Jonathan Kuminga as a potential for the Lakers is huge in itself as well. I think Jonathan Kuminga, wherever he ends up, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. That's the type of player that the Lakers need. Someone that can defend, that's got good length, that can play both sides of the floor. But what I don't want the Lakers to do is try to come up with solutions just for this season. It's not about this season. For the Lakers, the solution is, what can you get to build with Luka and AR? Or what can you get to build with Luka? And then we'll kind of let the AR piece figure itself out over the next few months. There was one other thing that Kevin O'Connor said. And he said this about Herb Jones. He said, I'd say there's interest there on both sides, he said on the podcast. there are a lot of indications that Jones and his camp would like a move to a contending team. The Lakers are looking for 3-and-D wings. Herb Jones would be near the top of the list in terms of affordability and game fit in a Luka Doncic future roster. So it asked, at least it sounds like there that, Herb Jones and his camp, they might be angling to try to get to the Lakers as well. That's positive news for me. And again, when I say it's positive news, I'm not just referring to, I hope people don't think I'm referring to just this season, because I think this season, I kind of already know what the ceiling is for the Lakers this season. Second round knockout, is that probably the ceiling for the Lakers? You need so many things to go your way. Your team has shown that they don't play defense on a consistent basis. Your bench has shown that they can't show up. Ayton has shown that he can't be the most consistent player. You obviously need health. As the season wears on, how healthy are some of these guys going to be? Would you say second round is probably the ceiling for the Lakers? That's okay. If you do make a move and you do make a trade, make sure you're making a trade not just for this year, for next year and the following year. You're starting to put together that roster that's built around Luka. That's my hope by the end of the trade deadline. And if they're not able to do so, okay, fine. You weren't able to do so. Regroup again in the summer. You don't have to look for Hail Marys here. The teams that are swinging for the fences should have a legitimate chance of winning an NBA championship, or they should be desperate like the Golden State Warriors and saying, well, this is our final run with Steph Curry. Or they should be like the Houston Rockets and say, if we don't go out there and get a legitimate point guard, we're wasting some of KD's years. There's certain teams that should swing for the fences. Lakers aren't one of them. They're just not. There's not enough that's been shown to say this is the year that you put your chips to the center of the table. But you can put your chips to the center of the table if the game plan is, we got a guy that's going to be with Luka for 3 years, and he's a perfect fit. That part is a different conversation. All right, let's see some of the comments here, and then I'll get into the Rich Paul portion of this addressing Austin Reaves. First round, Lakers sweep Nuggets. Lakers daddy. Jesus, relax here. Relax. Come on. Give me a moment here. Look, all those matchups wouldn't benefit the Lakers. That's the reality of it. They won't. If you went up against the San Antonio Spurs, maybe some of the San Antonio Spurs inexperience would be nice, but the Spurs wouldn't be a fun matchup against the Lakers. If you went up against a healthy Denver team, yeah, it ain't a good matchup. And that might be your first round matchup. I think if you told me, hey, it's Minnesota, it's like, all right, we got a series here in the first round. Houston could be a headache, of course, because of the way they play defense, their style of basketball. I still think they need a point guard, but figure that out from there. Slee, second round, you're drinking this early already. Didn't you see the game last night? I said best case scenario. Okay. That's best case scenario. I didn't say the Lakers are, in game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. I said best case scenario. Let's get a couple more in here. I don't care what happens next so long as it's not AR leaving and Rui staying. We've seen Rui's act and it's passive regression. Ship him out no matter what. AR be damned. Yeah, listen, I'm not 100% sure if, Rui is part of the future of the Lakers. I don't know if he's going to get shipped out by the trade deadline. I've said this before and I'll say it again. And I'm not going to go at Rui right now. The guy was out for a handful of games, and I do think he needs he needs time to get back into some kind of a groove. But I said this earlier in the season. There's a lack of talent and depth on this Lakers team. So if you go out and make a trade, you almost kind of need to keep Rui. And for those that are asking the question, Al, why would the Pelicans make a trade and trade Herb Jones to the Lakers? The only reason why they would do that, they get some expiring contracts, they get some draft compensation. That's the only reason. So not every team is got a similar game plan. For The Portland Trailblazers, their game plan is to build around young players. For the Houston Rockets is we got a 2-year window to try to get to an NBA Finals. For the Lakers, I think their window is how the hell can we start building around Luka today and then worry about everything else after? The deadline is all talk but no show. Don't be too surprised by that. I mean, we're January 16th. You still got about 3 weeks left to the trade deadline. So it's not uncommon to be all talk right now. But as we get a little bit closer, things will start kind of heating up a little bit. Okay. Rich Paul. It's a great show today, man. Great show. Bill Oram was awesome. Good topic so far. Great engagement with all the listeners. So I appreciate you being here. If you end up watching this and you're not watching it live, I encourage you to come on at 8 a.m. It's great to kind of go back and forth with everybody's comments. But thank you for being here either way. If you're listening to this on the iHeartRadio podcast, thank you for listening on the iHeartRadio podcast or Spotify or whatever it is. But obviously this all kind of comes through iHeartRadio. Thank you for listening as well. I'm a lot more beautiful on radio. You know what I mean? When you can't see me. Rich Paul had something to say in regards to all the chatter that he started. Rich Paul getting us some good content. Thank you, Rich Paul. I mean, if I saw Rich Paul, the first thing I would say to Rich Paul is I would say, hey, brother, listen, I do a daily Lakers/NBA podcast. I want to thank you for what you've done for all these shows of getting us some good content. All right, I'm going to play something here, or I'm just going to actually. Do I play this? I'm going to play it. Actually, I think I can play it. I'm grabbing this from heavy.com, which, again, I've said this before, does a really good job of kind of aggregating everything. Let's see, and I'm going to be honest with everybody. I haven't played this. I just saw that it's on here. So let me see if I could play this here real quick. Let's refresh this. Let's see if we can get this. I want to get this. This is what Rich Paul was saying in regards to the Austin Reaves and all the chatter and conversation that he caused. Take a listen to Rich Paul.
Now we get to the good stuff. There has been an enormous reaction to what you said about the Lakers and Austin Reaves on Monday.
Yes, it has.
There's been an enormous reaction. I'm talking about articles coming out. Rich Paul is ruining the Lakers. You can be entertained by, there's a ton of choices for entertainment. If you want to know what's going on, if you want to know what people would be talking about the next day, subscribe.
My man Reg, who happens to be Austin's agent, we talked. This is my guy. I mean, I've known him for 20 years. And he said, Rich, I didn't watch the shows. Okay. So we talked about it. And I'm like,
again, this is just a Rich Paul explaining his side of him saying what he said in regards to Austin Reaves.
Look, Reg, you my man. And I want Austin to know this is not about Austin Reaves because, one, love the player, love the person. And two, I actually need him to help me with my golf game. I believe it's very complimentary to AR because he's on a team with 2 future Hall of Famers, and he happens to be the asset. So I'm not trying to mess up anything with AR.
I don't remember I think it was I who brought up.
You brought it up.
Reaves, because you were saying this is how they could get him, and you were talking about draft picks and matching salaries and expiring.
But see, I'm starting to figure this out now, Max. I think you're doing this shit on purpose.
I'm set.
All right, that's Kellerman and Rich Paul, Game Over podcast. He explains, all right, let me give you why I said what I said, and the reports that were coming out and saying that Austin Reaves' agent is addressing it at halftime of a Lakers game. If I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I think 2 things can be true. Okay. Number one, I do not want Rich Paul to start filtering what he actually believes. I don't want him to. And I think it's better for their podcast and better for their business if he does not filter. I don't want him all of a sudden not having Lakers commentary or not giving his thoughts and opinion, because here's one thing you cannot argue about what Rich Paul said. What you can't argue is, hey, that's interesting. Well, that's an interesting trade. Jaren Jackson Jr., if he's on the Lakers, maybe Austin Reaves gets paid with the Memphis Grizzlies, and then he kind of becomes one of the faces of that franchise. And they kind of start rebuilding and retooling everything that they're doing. They eventually trade Ja Morant, whatever they get. If it was an absurd idea, I thought Kellerman had an absurd idea when I talked about it yesterday. The Lakers aren't going to trade Luka. I do think that's an absurd idea. Why would you get Luka for 1 year and then trade him? What the hell is the purpose of that? What's the point of that? But I don't think what he was saying, Rich Paul, is absurd. So I don't want Rich Paul to all of a sudden kind of start fading away and saying, well, you know what? I'm stirring too many reactions, this, that, whatever the case. But I can also tell you it ain't good biz for the Lakers. It's not. And you know, this was the conversation that we had. Of course, that's going to be a distraction. That's LeBron's boy making up trade scenarios for one of the guys that's probably right next to LeBron James in the locker room. Of course, that's going to make things awkward. I said this earlier to Bill Oram. I love what Chandler Parsons said. Chandler Parsons on their Run It Back TV, Chandler Parsons said, I'm petty. If I'm Austin Reaves' agent, I get on a mic, I get on a podcast and say, you know, that was an interesting trade proposal that Rich Paul had for Austin Reaves. I got a trade proposal that I think is actually better for the Lakers. I would trade LeBron James for Jaren Jackson Jr. because I think Jaren Jackson Jr., Austin Reaves, and Luka Doncic, that's a better combination that can go further this year. I thought that was funny when he said that. I thought that was a creative way to say two can play this game. Anyways, do I think that trade's going to happen? Of course I don't. I don't think it's going to happen, but here's what I don't want for Rich Paul to do. I really don't. I'm just being honest with everybody here. I would hate to see Rich Paul take a step back. I would hate to see Rich Paul say, all right, you know what? I'm not going to give my honest, genuine opinion of what I think certain NBA teams and franchises should do because it might stir up the pot too much. Rich Paul didn't say anything that was crazy. It's just that it came from Rich Paul. If I came on here and I said, guys, I got a great trade idea. The Lakers should trade Jaren Jackson Jr. for Austin Reaves. No one would say, Al, that's the craziest, dumbest idea I ever heard. But it's coming from a podcaster that's not Rich Paul and an agent that represents LeBron and all these other athletes in the league. So, again, I don't think Rich Paul needs to apologize. I don't think Rich Paul needs to do anything. And I think if you're the Lakers, you know, there probably was a day back in the day, surely there was, where whatever LeBron thought or Rich Paul said, it had this magnitude around the organization that was like, oh, geez, oh, I hope they're good. I hope they're not mad. I hope this, that, all that stuff. Those days are over. And you know how we know those days are over? First off, because LeBron's 41. Second, because you got Luka on your team. And third, look at the actions of the Lakers in the offseason, this last offseason, when they didn't give LeBron another 1+1. And Rich Paul had to come out with, you know, that statement that he had. Those days are over where Rich Paul or LeBron can flex on the Lakers. Nobody's fault. It's just, it's 23 seasons in the league. So that was Rich Paul's response, obviously, to on the Austin Reaves front. So I wanted to at least give everyone a quick idea on that. All right. I got the weekend preview coming up here in just a second. I got some NBA news that I want to get into as well. We got a few things that we're going to hit on, and I want to look at everybody's comments, and then we will call it a week. So solid week for everybody. Sometimes I got to give praise to the players out there. And if you guys are the players and I'm the head coach trying to drive this thing, the players had a really good week. You know, if I'm doing a post-game presser, I would say that I thought everyone this week came prepared. They had the right attitude. I think their conditioning is tip-top shape. That's what I think of all the people that are on the show and the comments that are being on. Good week this week. I'm proud of you guys. Proud of you guys. All right, let's get into a couple things around the NBA. I'll look at a couple of the comments. We'll do the weekend preview, and then we'll get out of here. A couple of the NBA stories that I saw. Nothing too crazy or anything like that. But I thought there was some interesting games last night that tell a little bit of a story. Something going on with the Houston Rockets. Rockets struggling a little bit. They got blown out by OKC yesterday. Okay, that's fine. You know, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. They got outscored in the fourth quarter, 34-16. The Rockets have, if I look at their schedule here, a loss to the Blazers, a loss to the Blazers, a loss to the Kings, a win versus the Bulls, a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've lost 4 of 5. They've lost 5 of 7 if you go back to that loss against the Dallas Mavericks. So the Houston Rockets, who were kind of balling out for a while there, they're all of a sudden struggling. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, they seem to be getting back on track. I think the Thunder are going to be fine. So any concern for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think they're fine. Clippers made the news. Clippers Steve Ballmer aims to dismiss fraud suit over Kawhi Leonard's pay. Attorneys representing Steve Ballmer are seeking to dismiss a lawsuit that alleges the LA Clippers owner participated in a fraud by funneling money to star Kawhi Leonard through a now defunct green banking company, calling the allegations sensational and patently false, according to court documents. So we obviously know that Aspiration, that's the company that the big question is, were the Clippers circumnavigating the salary cap? Pablo Torre came out, obviously a journalist and a podcaster, came out with the big story in regards to before the NBA season started, and he's trying to get that suit dismissed. We'll see what happens in regards to that. Let me do one other thing around the NBA. I want to just see if there's any good games tonight. Cavs are playing the Sixers. That game's on ESPN. Clippers are playing the Raptors. Remember, Lakers got the Raptors coming up on Sunday. Timberwolves are playing the Rockets. There's a good game right there. Minnesota balling out 27-14. Rockets obviously struggling a little bit, so there's another good game right there. So if you're looking for scores around the NBA, looking for games tonight, you got a couple of good ones. The two games on ESPN, they're good games. Cavs and the Sixers, and then you got the Timberwolves and the Rockets. So you got a couple of games there that you can pick from. All right. We got obviously the weekend. This is going to be a busy weekend in sports. If you're a big NFL fan, then you're set up for this weekend. A couple stories around all of sports I'm going to hit on, and then I'll give you the playoff schedule. I'll take a look at everybody's comments, and today might be the longest show that we've ever done. But what the hell do you want me to do? I got a lot to talk about. I enjoyed talking sports with you guys, so let's stay here. Dodger news broke yesterday. And I'll tell you how it broke for me. My cousin, both of us from San Diego, sends me a message. And it basically was like effing shit. I'm like, what? He's like, Dodgers. I'm like, I don't even have any emotion anymore. I used to care. I don't care anymore. Kyle Tucker agrees to a 4-year, $240 million deal. My people, Major League Baseball is broken, but it's not the Dodgers' fault. Don't hate the game, hate the player. I think in this case, don't hate the player, hate the game. I think I got that all mixed up. The Dodgers are paying $60 million a year for Kyle Tucker. I think that's the highest AAV other than Shohei, if I'm correct on that. Obviously, the Dodgers, back-to-back World Series champions. They went out and got Edwin Diaz in the offseason already. The all-star team that they have, I don't have to sit here and tell you about it. You know, there's every time that I see it's kind of funny. When I saw the news yesterday, I'm like, Dodgers want to use some of those resources on the Lakers right now? They can, if they're running a couple of businesses at the same time. It's like, this restaurant is thriving, that restaurant's struggling over there. Why don't you take some of those resources and put it over there? They don't need to. They'll figure it out, and I think they're going to figure it out by next off seasons, when I do think new ownership will start kind of putting their fingerprints into this. But it's just another signing, and it's like they've done so many of these that you're almost like, it doesn't even, I don't even have a response to it because, okay, maybe you had a response when they were doing it earlier, but now it's just the norm and you're just waiting for them to kind of end up with another player. So, yeah. So that happened in baseball. What a shocker here. And the Dodgers now have 67 All-Stars on the team. What a great way of running baseball. Man, it seems like baseball has so many equal opportunities. No, they definitely shouldn't go on strike. I mean, this makes so much sense for baseball. Again, it's not the Dodgers' fault. They're taking advantage of it. But I think if you're every other Major League Baseball team out there, if you're cheering for another squad, you're like, what's the setup here? How do you compete with this? Dodgers obviously setting a standard. And, you know, again, I kind of tie this back to the Lakers. Now the question is will new ownership be able to put an imprint like they've done with one squad with another squad that's just 15 minutes away from one stadium to the arena? NFL playoff schedule this weekend. Here's what we got going on. Start on Saturday. Bills and the Broncos. 12-5 Bills, 14-3 Broncos. Josh Allen. Got to go on the road again and go get a big win. Everybody putting pressure on Josh Allen. Your ass better get to a Super Bowl this year. Lamar's not there. Mahomes isn't there. This is your path. This is your year. He's got to go on the road again. He's got to go do it in Denver. I'll be rooting for the Bills. I'll root for Josh Allen. I don't got a problem with that. I think it'd be fun to see the Bills continue to have some success. I think it's the best game on the schedule. 49ers and Seahawks. How good is the NFC West? Look at the NFC West just flexing. 3 of the 4 teams left in the NFC are all from the same division. 49ers and the Seahawks. That's a 5 p.m. game on Fox on Saturday night. You know the only thing that sucks about this game? Freaking during the Lakers game. At least the Lakers game's not till 7, so I'll be able to have 2 screens on and we'll be able to watch it. Lakers and the Blazers obviously coming up on Saturday, and then the Lakers and the Raptors coming up on Sunday. So by the time we get together, we'll have a full NFL weekend that happened, and we'll have 2 Lakers games that happen when I do the show on Monday. Sunday, you got the Texans and the Patriots. Oh, man, Texans on the road as well. That's a good game, too. I think Texans and the Bills win both. I take both road teams this weekend. That's what I'll take. I think Buffalo versus Houston next week in the AFC Championship game. Rams are taking on the Bears. Bears, obviously, that remarkable comeback they had against the Packers. Still don't know what the hell the Packers were doing with their play calling and running the clock and everything else. No idea what they were doing a week ago. All right, if I got to make a prediction here, let me make a prediction. I got Seahawks and Rams in the NFC Championship. I got Texans and Patriots in the AFC Championship. All right, there's a little bit of a preview of what we got going on this weekend. Shout out, of course, to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm for being a part of the show and also being a proud partner of our weekend preview as well as the weekend recap, which we'll do on Monday. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments. We're definitely going to $130 today. No question about it, going to $130. Impossible I don't go $130. Let's see what we have here. Let's see what we got here. Trying to look here. What do people, you got to get Bears down here. You know, I got to be honest. There's been a couple of people who are Bears fan. I've been anti-Bears and I don't even have I'm not even anti-Bears. I just, early in the season, I'm like, guys, they're not going to do anything. I'm a Jordan Love guy. You know, I don't have an NFL team anymore because the previous owner that I used to cheer for is a piece of you-know-what and moved the team out of San Diego. So I kind of I pick and choose now where I go. But the Bears last week, I thought they were going to get their asses kicked. They end up winning that game. So shout out to the Bears. They're making it happen every week. And then here I am picking the Rams over the Bears. Guys, do me one favor. Go to a Laker rebuild. I did at least 30. I can't win with AR and Luka together. Okay. Let's see another one here. Toronto took the Dodgers to game 8. So it's just people mad that their hot stove fantasy season isn't their team. That's all. Brother, I don't know what to tell you. But if you think Major League Baseball is running an equal operation, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I can't sit here and if you can't, you can be a Dodger fan and also be honest and just say, hey, listen, obviously this is absurd what they're able to do, what they've done. And you got to give ownership credit for saying, we're going to just use all our resources, our power, our might, our revenue. We're going to use all this and they're going to do the deferring money, everything that they're going to do. If we can't at least agree on that, I don't know what to tell you. You can still say, I mean, it's your squad. I mean, you should, of course, be happy that your squad is doing everything they need to do within the rules. But I don't think you could sit here and tell me that Major League Baseball is running their business the proper way to give everyone an equal shot. The NFL is set up differently. The NBA is set up differently. And I do think they need a model more like that. And until there's a model more like that, we might be talking about, a three-peat coming. Because I don't know who the hell is going to be able to compete with that. All right. I think that's all I got for the day. We got to our $130. Great week, like I mentioned, and thank you very much for being here. So just a quick reminder here, just so everybody knows. Tonight, Sammy's going to be doing a video getting you ready for the Lakers and the Portland Trail Blazers. Lakers, Blazers tomorrow. I'll do a post-game show after that. And then Lakers and the Raptors on Sunday. I'll do a post-game show after that. So thank you very much for being here. And really appreciate you guys hanging out all week. Thank you for being a part of the show. Please subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday. Enjoy the football games tomorrow. Enjoy them on Sunday if you don't join me for the post-game show tomorrow. And if I don't see you for a post-game show this weekend, I'll see you on Monday morning as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.